The fluorescent lights of the operating room reflected off every stainless steel surface, casting a clinical glow over the white, polished floors. Dr. Aaliyah Brooks moved with precision, her surgical mask hiding the calm authority in her expression. Every step, every instrument she touched was deliberate, a choreography perfected over years of late nights in medical school, endless residencies, and countless emergency surgeries. Her hands were steady, her mind focused. And yet beneath that composure, a whisper of unease lingered, the faint premonition of something she could not yet name. She had always prided herself on control, on maintaining the delicate balance between personal life and professional excellence. Tonight, that balance would tremble. The emergency alert had arrived barely 15 minutes ago. Tiana Alvarez, 27, had been rushed in after a sudden complication in her 8th month of pregnancy. Her vital signs were unstable, and the attending nurse's voice on the line had been tense. "Dr. Brooks, we need you in OR3, now." There had been no time to hesitate. Aaliyah had thrown on her scrubs, scrubbed her hands with meticulous care, and moved as though the world had narrowed to this single moment. Every surgeon knew that emergencies were unpredictable, but nothing could have prepared her for what awaited. She glanced at the patient file once more, verifying the blood type, allergies, and emergency contact information. Her brow furrowed slightly as her eyes lingered on the name Marcus Reed under the emergency contact section. A subtle chill ran through her, but she immediately pushed it aside. Hospitals were full of coincidences, she reminded herself. She could not afford to indulge in speculation, not when a life depended on her. Tiana Alvarez was counting on her, and failure was not an option. As she entered the operating room, the hum of machines and the sterile scent of antiseptic enveloped her. The room was crowded with a team of nurses and anesthesiologists, each moving efficiently, exchanging clipped instructions. "Vitals are dropping," one nurse said, glancing at the monitor. Aaliyah's voice was calm, commanding. "Prep for C-section. Let's keep this patient stable. Scalpel." Her eyes scanned the room, noting every tray, every instrument, every monitor, every detail that could ensure success. Her mind, home trained for precision, was already calculating the steps ahead. Tiana's eyes fluttered open briefly, panic momentarily breaking through the haze of pain. "Please, help my baby," she whispered, her voice barely audible. Aaliyah reached over, placing a gloved hand gently on Tiana's arm, grounding her. "I've got you. Focus on breathing. Your baby will be okay." The reassurance was professional, precise, but beneath it, a tremor of emotion ran through her chest she refused to acknowledge, and she had always kept personal feelings compartmentalized, never allowing them to interfere with her work. Tonight, she would be tested in ways she had never imagined. The anesthesia team worked quickly, intubating and monitoring vital signs. Aaliyah adjusted her mask, checked the surgical site, and made the initial incision. The usual rhythm of surgery took over, the controlled chaos, the focus on precision, and the dance of hands and instruments, but her mind could not entirely escape the name Marcus Reed. Why did it strike her so sharply? She forced the thought aside, attributing it to coincidence, to the stress of the emergency. There was no room for distraction. Not now. Minutes stretched as tension in the OR mounted. Tiana's blood pressure fluctuated, and Aaliyah barked instructions with calm authority, ensuring every assistant and nurse knew their role. "Clamp here. Suction ready. Retract carefully." Her voice remained steady, masking the storm of thoughts swirling beneath the surface. Each instruction was deliberate, controlled, a shield against the vulnerability that threatened to rise. She could not falter. She would not falter. And then, in the midst of delivering the baby, subtle indicators aligned. The newborn's blood type matched Marcus's rare type, a detail Aaliyah had memorized years ago from a hospital seminar. And the way the infant's tiny hand clutched the surgical glove, the curve of the nose, even the faint resemblance in the skin tone, every subconscious signal, every detail converged into an inescapable truth. The room seemed to tilt, a subtle dizziness threatening to pull her focus. Her hands, though steady, now carried a weight beyond the physical. The baby she had just delivered, so tiny, so vulnerable, bore the unmistakable mark of her husband's DNA. Time seemed suspended. Aaliyah's mind raced, her cataloguing every memory, every interaction with Marcus, every hint she had missed. She forced herself to continue with the procedure, instructing the team to complete post-delivery checks, monitor the infant, and stabilize Tiana. Every step required mastery over fear, over emotion, over the shattering realization that her life outside these walls was no longer as it had seemed. She maintained her professionalism, but inside a storm raged. Betrayal, disbelief, and heartbreak collided in a torrent she could neither control nor ignore. When the baby was stabilized and handed to the pediatric team, Aaliyah stepped back, exhaling slowly through her mask, her heart pounding in a rhythm that betrayed her composure. The OR staff moved with practiced efficiency, unaware of the seismic shift that had just occurred in the surgeon at the center of the room. Aaliyah's eyes met Tiana's briefly, catching a flicker of trust, of hope, and guilt twisted through her chest. This woman had no idea what lay behind the professional calm, what secrets Aaliyah now carried. She scrubbed out, her mind still racing, trying to reconcile the dualities of her life. The brilliant surgeon, the betrayed wife, the woman forced to navigate an emotional landscape she had never anticipated. The sterile corridors of the hospital felt alien, each echo of footsteps magnified, each whisper of passing staff slicing through the fragile veneer of composure she had maintained. She knew she could not yet confront Marcus, not here, not now, but the gears of a plan had begun to turn. As she stepped into the hallway, the distant beep of monitors and soft hum of hospital machinery accompanied her thoughts. She had delivered life, but she had also delivered a truth that would alter every aspect of her existence. Every patient she had saved, every accolade, in every moment of pride could not shield her from the betrayal she now faced. The operating room, once her sanctuary, had become the stage of revelation. The night had only just begun, and she understood with stark clarity that the act of delivering the baby was only the beginning of a journey that would demand courage, strategy, and emotional fortitude she had yet to fully summon. Aaliyah paused outside the OR doors, adjusting her gloves one final time, while her mind a controlled whirlwind of thoughts, fears, and resolutions. She would return to Tiana, to the administration, to Marcus. But first she would breathe, collect herself, and prepare. The lights of the hospital stretched on endlessly ahead, a labyrinth of corridors that now symbolized a path not just to professional duty, but to personal reckoning. She inhaled deeply, centering herself in the moment, knowing that everything she had trusted about her marriage, her life, and her control over circumstances had irrevocably shifted. The journey had begun. The fluorescent lights of the hallway cast a sterile glow on the polished floors as Dr. Aaliyah Brooks walked briskly toward the staff lounge. Her mask had long been removed, revealing a face carefully composed, yet taut with suppressed tension. Every step she took echoed in the corridor, each sound a reminder that nothing in this hospital was truly private. She had delivered Tiana Alvarez's baby. He had maintained control in the operating room, but the truth she now carried pressed on her chest like a weight she could not ignore. Her hands itched to act, to confront, to unravel Marcus Reed's deceit, Yet she knew patience was crucial. The storm would come, but only when she orchestrated it. Aaliyah entered the lounge, where a few colleagues were quietly chatting over coffee. She greeted them with a nod, her tone casual, but the world inside her was in upheaval. She could not allow even a flicker of her internal chaos to betray itself. Her eyes scanned the room, noting who might notice a change, who might ask questions. Every detail mattered. Every interaction was a test of control. She poured herself a cup of coffee, the warmth grounding her, even as her thoughts swirled uncontrollably around the revelation in the OR. Sitting down at the edge of a counter, she replayed every detail of the surgery in her mind. Marcus's name on the patient chart, the matching blood type, the way the infant's features mirrored his. She clenched her jaw, forcing herself to breathe steadily. She had always prided herself on her professionalism, on compartmentalizing emotions. Yet now, the boundaries between personal and professional life were fraying, threatening to unravel everything she had built. The thought that Marcus had betrayed her so blatantly, so fully, ignited a fire of disbelief and simmering anger she could not yet express. Till her phone buzzed on the counter. A message from Marcus. She did not immediately look at it, allowing the device to sit silently while she collected her thoughts. When she finally unlocked the screen, the message was deceptively casual. "Are you okay? Everything went smoothly?" The words, intended to soothe, only fanned the flame of her suspicions. His attempt at normalcy was jarring, audacious even. She typed nothing in response, setting the phone down deliberately, her fingers lingering on the cool surface as if absorbing the resolve building within her. Aaliyah rose and walked to the small break area window, staring out at the faint glow of the city beyond the hospital walls. The night was still young, yet every moment felt loaded with unspoken tension. Tiana Alvarez, unaware of the full extent of the truth, rested in the recovery room, smiling faintly at the medical staff. The innocence in her eyes was a sharp contrast to the labyrinth of lies Aaliyah now navigated. Her hands flexed at her sides, the urge to act, to confront, to reclaim her agency, pressed heavily against the walls of her restraint. She made her way to the recovery room, careful to maintain her composure. The nurses greeted her respectfully, noting her calm demeanor. Aaliyah gave a polite nod, her gaze immediately drawn to Tiana, who lay with the newborn swaddled gently in her arms. The baby cooed softly, oblivious to the adult complexities surrounding its birth. Aaliyah's heart ached, the professional instinct to protect and care mixing with the raw emotional realization of betrayal. She approached the bedside with measured steps, offering a reassuring smile. "How are you feeling?" she asked, her voice steady yet warm. Tiana's eyes lit up. "Better now, thanks to you," she said, her voice small but sincere. "I was so scared." Aaliyah's chest tightened. She wanted to tell Tiana to trust her, to remain calm. Yet the secret that Marcus was the father made even the simplest words feel weighted with complication. She nodded. "You did great. Your baby is healthy, and that's what matters." Every syllable was careful, precise, designed to soothe the patient without revealing the tremor in her own life. As she checked the charts, noting vital signs and medication schedules, Aaliyah's mind ran through the possibilities. How had Marcus hidden this? For how long? Every interaction, every smile, every touch from him now seemed tainted with deception. Her mind catalogued evidence she had noticed in passing, texts left open on a shared tablet, subtle financial transactions, fleeting conversations she had dismissed. All of it converged into a clear pattern of betrayal. She would need proof, undeniable proof, and she would need it quickly. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. It was one of the nurses, hesitant. Dr. Brooks, Marcus is here. He wants to see you. Aaliyah's pulse quickened, though her outward demeanor remained composed. She nodded curtly. I'll see him, she said, her voice even. The nurse left, and Aaliyah exhaled slowly, preparing herself for the encounter. Her mind raced, balancing strategy with restraint. She could not allow anger to dictate her actions. She had always been a surgeon first, a woman scorned second. Tonight she would navigate both with calculated precision. Marcus appeared in the doorway moments later, his expression a mixture of guilt and practiced charm. He attempted a casual smile. I just wanted to check on her. And on you, he said, gesturing toward Tiana and subtly including Aaliyah. His eyes searched hers for a sign of forgiveness, a crack in her armor. Aaliyah met his gaze evenly, masking the storm inside. She's stable, she replied. The baby is healthy. That is what matters. Every word was deliberate, keeping him at arm's length, maintaining professional and personal boundaries. Marcus shifted uncomfortably, a hint of tension betraying his usual composure. He glanced at Tiana and back at Aaliyah, his charm faltering under the weight of unspoken truths. Aaliyah remained silent, observing him, cataloguing every flicker of guilt, every slight twitch, every micro-expression that betrayed the deception he had attempted to hide. She knew with absolute clarity that this confrontation was only the beginning. Her mind was already constructing the path forward, mapping steps that would ensure clarity, accountability, and eventual resolution. The night wore on, and the hospital buzzed quietly with routine activity. Aaliyah maintained her composure, tending to Tiana, coordinating with nurses and reviewing the charts with meticulous care. Every movement was measured, every word calculated, yet beneath the surface, the emotional current surged with intensity. She had delivered a life, but she had also delivered the beginning of a reckoning. Every glance at Marcus, every observation of Tiana reinforced her resolve. The truth must be acknowledged, and the consequences managed with precision. As the clock ticked toward midnight, Aaliyah stepped out of the recovery room for a brief moment, letting the cool air of the corridor wash over her. Her reflection in the glass walls showed a woman poised and controlled, yet the fire in her eyes betrayed the storm inside. Yet she was no longer merely a surgeon performing life-saving work. She was a woman navigating a labyrinth of lies, betrayal, and moral complexity. The choices she would make tonight, the actions she would take, were already forming in her mind, each calculated, each deliberate, each necessary. The operating room had revealed one truth, but the real challenge was just beginning, and Aaliyah Brooks was ready to meet it with the same precision, determination, and resilience that had defined her career. The hospital corridors were quiet now, the faint hum of machinery the only constant as Dr. Aaliyah Brooks made her way toward the private consultation room. Every step echoed with precision, her polished shoes clicking against the tile in measured rhythm. Her mind was a storm of calculations, each one a strategy for what she knew had to happen. Marcus Reed's betrayal was no longer a theory, no longer a suspicion. It was a confirmed fact. It was etched in every detail she had observed since the emergency surgery. And now the moment of reckoning approached. She entered the consultation room, where the soft glow of overhead lights cast even shadows along the walls. Marcus was already there, his posture casual but strained, as if he believed charm could veil the truth. He looked up as she entered, his eyes scanning hers for signs of weakness, for a flicker of the forgiveness he hoped would come. Aaliyah met his gaze without hesitation, her own eyes steady, resolute, reflecting the years of composure she had honed in operating rooms and hospital hallways. There would be no deception tonight, no pretense of ignorance. "You wanted to see me," she said, her voice calm, controlled, but heavy with unspoken weight. Every word was deliberate, every pause measured. Marcus shifted, a slight tension in his jaw betraying the charm he tried to maintain. I thought we should talk," he said, choosing the most casual phrasing he could muster, though it faltered under her scrutiny. Aaliyah raised an eyebrow slightly, allowing a fraction of silence to hang in the air. Silence had always been her most effective tool, a weapon sharper than any scalpel. She began by recapping the events of the night, recounting Tiana Alvarez's emergency admission, the details of the C-section, and the undeniable medical facts that confirmed what she already knew. Each sentence was deliberate, each fact presented with clinical precision. Marcus's eyes widened slightly as the evidence mounted, but Aaliyah did not give him the chance to interject, to charm, to deflect. "The baby is yours, Marcus," she said finally, her tone flat but heavy. "There is no ambiguity. The blood type, the features, every piece of evidence confirms it." Marcus swallowed, the casual facade slipping further. "Aaliyah, he began, but she raised a hand, cutting him off. "Save it. I am not interested in excuses or apologies right now. I am interested in clarity and accountability. You have lied, deceived, and betrayed trust in the most personal way imaginable. That is the truth, and it cannot be ignored." Her voice, though controlled, carried an intensity that made even Marcus take a half step back. The weight of her composure pressed on him, an invisible force that demanded attention. Aaliyah paced slowly, circling the room as she catalogued every observation she had made, every subtle indicator of his deception she had gathered. "I noticed texts left open, financial transactions that didn't make sense, fleeting comments that now fit into a disturbing pattern," she continued, her eyes never leaving his. "You have attempted to maintain the illusion of a perfect marriage, but perfection has its cost. And now the cost is undeniable. You cannot pretend any longer." Her tone was calm, surgical, yet the emotional charge beneath it was palpable, radiating from her in waves that Marcus could not ignore. He shifted uncomfortably, attempting a charm he had relied upon too many times before. "Aaliyah, you have to understand. I never meant for—" She stopped him with a raised hand, her glare sharp, unwavering. "I understand perfectly, Marcus. I understand that you chose deception over honesty, that you chose selfish convenience over our vows, over respect, over the life we promised each other. And intentions matter less than actions, and your actions have consequences." The room was charged, a tension that seemed almost tangible pressing against the walls. Aaliyah moved closer, her presence commanding every inch of her radiating authority and control. "I am giving you the opportunity to be truthful now, fully and completely, with no evasion. This is your final chance to acknowledge what you have done before any further steps are necessary." Her words were deliberate, surgical, and the weight of them settled heavily on Marcus, who could feel his previous bravado collapsing. He hesitated, swallowing hard, the charm completely stripped away. I made mistakes," he admitted finally, his voice low, strained. "I never meant to hurt you." His gaze dropped to the floor, the weight of guilt pressing him downward. Aaliyah's eyes followed him, noting the subtle signs of panic, the tension in his shoulders, the way he could no longer meet her gaze. Everything she had suspected, every detail she had catalogued, was confirmed in this moment of admission. Aaliyah's expression softened fractionally, but only enough to maintain authority. "Acknowledgement is the first step," she said evenly. "But acknowledgement does not absolve you of responsibility. You must now face the consequences of your actions, and I will ensure that every step is measured, deliberate, and just." Her tone left no room for negotiation, no room for charm or manipulation. Marcus understood, even as his mind raced for a defense, that this confrontation had shifted the balance irrevocably. The minutes stretched, heavy with the weight of unspoken tension, until Marcus finally sank into the chair opposite her, exhausted, defeated. Aaliyah remained standing, her posture erect, radiating control and resolve. Every detail of the encounter had been orchestrated with precision, every word measured to convey authority, to demand accountability, or to assert the power she had maintained in her professional life, but now applied fully to her personal life. As the conversation continued, Aaliyah outlined the steps that would follow, carefully mapping the necessary actions to address the immediate situation. She would document, she would secure evidence, and she would navigate the repercussions in a manner that preserved integrity while ensuring accountability. Marcus listened in silence, every word a reminder that the illusion of his control had vanished completely. She had taken the operating room precision she applied to saving lives and redirected it toward confronting betrayal, and the effect was devastatingly clear. Finally, Aaliyah allowed herself to step back slightly, releasing a breath she had not realized she had been holding. The confrontation was over for now, but the path ahead remained complex, fraught with emotional, professional, and personal challenges. And Marcus's confession had shifted the dynamic entirely, yet the resolution would require continued clarity, strategic action, and unwavering focus. Aaliyah had delivered life in the operating room. Now she was delivering truth, and the weight of that responsibility was hers alone to bear. She left the consultation room with measured steps, the echo of her shoes a rhythm that mirrored the steady heartbeat she forced herself to maintain. The hospital corridors stretched before her, quiet now, but each passing moment reminded her that the consequences of the night were only beginning to unfold. Every glance at the patient rooms, every interaction with the staff, every reflection in the glass panels reinforced the clarity she had gained. Control, precision, and unwavering commitment to truth would guide her through the storm Marcus had created. As she returned to the recovery room to check on Tiana and the baby, Aaliyah's mind remained alert, calculating, prepared, and she maintained the same calm demeanor as she had throughout the night, but beneath the surface the emotional current ran deep and strong. Marcus's lies had been revealed, but the repercussions, the decisions, and the confrontations to come required careful planning. She had faced betrayal, but she would navigate it with the same discipline, intelligence, and determination that had defined her entire life. The night was far from over, yet Dr. Aaliyah Brooks stood unshaken, ready for every challenge that would follow. The early morning sunlight filtered through the tall windows of the hospital lobby, painting long streaks across the polished floors. Dr. Aaliyah Brooks walked with purpose, her scrubs crisp, her steps steady, and her mind clear for the first time in hours. The night's events had left a mark. Betrayal, confrontation, and unrelenting tension. But now, as she moved through the corridors, a sense of control and empowerment anchored her. While she had faced the storm, navigated it with precision, and emerged with clarity, the truth had been delivered, and with it came a liberation she had not anticipated. Tiana Alvarez's recovery room door was open as Aaliyah approached. The young mother cradled her newborn, eyes bright and hopeful despite the exhaustion etched across her face. Aaliyah paused, allowing herself a moment to take in the scene. The baby cooed softly, lifting tiny arms as if reaching for reassurance. It was a moment of pure life, untainted by the complexities of adult deceit. Aaliyah's chest tightened slightly, not with pain, but with the realization that her intervention had ensured safety, stability, and a new beginning for this small family. Tiana looked up and smiled as Aaliyah entered. "Dr. Brooks," she said, her voice filled with gratitude. "Thank you. I don't know what I would have done without you." Aaliyah returned the smile, genuine this time, had her professional calm now mingled with personal satisfaction. "You did everything right," she replied softly. "Your baby is healthy, and you're on the path to recovery. That's what matters most." Her words carried warmth, not just authority. She had learned over the past hours that compassion and precision could coexist, even in the most emotionally charged circumstances. As she checked the baby's vitals and adjusted monitors, Aaliyah reflected on the confrontation with Marcus the previous night. The conversation had been tense, precise, and necessary. He had confessed, acknowledged his mistakes, and yet the weight of his actions lingered. She had seen the man she had loved unravel in the face of accountability, the arrogance stripped away by undeniable truth. And while the confrontation had been emotionally exhausting, it had also crystallized her own strength. She realized she no longer needed the validation of a marriage built on lies. The hospital hallways began to stir as morning shifts changed. Nurses and doctors passed, exchanging nods and greetings. Aaliyah walked among them with her usual composure, but her steps now carried an additional weight. The certainty of her own independence and resolve. Marcus's betrayal had revealed vulnerabilities, but it had also illuminated strengths she had long ignored. She was not defined solely by her marriage, her husband, or the life she had believed she had. She was defined by her skills, her integrity, and her unwavering commitment to truth and self-respect. Aaliyah returned briefly to the staff lounge to gather her belongings. Her phone remained in her pocket, silent, a tangible reminder that Marcus's reach had ended with acknowledgement. She did not need messages, excuses, or attempts at reconciliation. The path ahead was hers to shape, and every step would reflect the agency she had claimed. And she moved with confidence, her posture reflecting both authority and liberation. Each gesture, each glance, each decision carried a subtle but unmistakable message. The woman in charge was fully present, fully aware, and fully untouchable. Her thoughts returned to the infant she had delivered. Life, she realized, carried both fragility and resilience. In the span of a single night, she had witnessed the raw vulnerability of human existence, the profound trust placed in her hands, and the stark consequences of betrayal. Each moment in the OR, each glance exchanged with Tiana, each beat of the newborn's tiny heart had reinforced the clarity of her priorities. She would protect life, uphold truth, and navigate personal challenges with the same precision that had defined her professional achievements. Aaliyah's reflection in the corridor's glass panels caught her attention. She studied her own expression, noting the subtle lines of fatigue, the intensity in her eyes, and the quiet determination radiating from her posture. The woman looking back was not the same woman who had walked into the OR the previous night. She had confronted betrayal, assessed consequences, and asserted her power in a situation where emotion could have easily overwhelmed reason. She had mastered a delicate balance between personal pain and professional duty, and in doing so, she had redefined herself. The hospital's administrative office loomed ahead. Aaliyah stepped inside briefly to finalize reports and ensure documentation of the night's events was accurate. Every detail of Tiana's care, every observation of Marcus's behavior, every step she had taken to preserve both patient safety and professional integrity was meticulously recorded. She worked quickly but methodically, knowing that the clarity of these records would protect her and establish an undeniable record of events. Each keystroke, Each signature, each entry reinforced the sense of control she had fought to reclaim. Stepping back into the hallway, Aaliyah's thoughts drifted momentarily to Marcus. The man who had betrayed her was now faced with reality, stripped of pretense and fully accountable. She felt no desire for vengeance beyond the assertion of truth. Instead, there was a quiet satisfaction, a recognition that she had navigated the emotional and ethical complexities with mastery. The confrontation had not been about punishment, but about clarity, accountability, and self-respect. She had delivered justice, not in fury, but in unwavering, measured authority. As she returned to Tiana's room, the morning light casting gentle shadows across the floor, Aaliyah felt a profound sense of closure. She moved with confidence, tending to the newborn and the recovering mother with skill and care, but also with a newfound personal awareness. The night had tested her, challenged her in ways she had never imagined, and yet she had emerged stronger, more centered, and fully prepared to navigate the life ahead. Every choice, every step, every decision would now be informed by this clarity, this empowerment, this unwavering commitment to truth. Aaliyah paused briefly by the bedside, watching the bond between mother and child deepen with each passing moment. The innocence of the newborn, the trust in Tiana's eyes, and the quiet resilience of the human spirit left an imprint on her own sense of purpose. Life, as she realized, was both fragile and relentless, demanding courage, compassion, and integrity at every turn. She had delivered a life, confronted deception, and asserted her agency, and in doing so, she had discovered the profound strength that came from owning both professional and personal truths. The hospital gradually came alive with the rhythms of the new day. Nurses hustled between rooms, doctors conferred quietly, and patients stirred in recovery beds. Aaliyah moved among them with grace and authority, a figure both composed and commanding. Every interaction, every gesture, every decision reflected the woman she had become, resolute, clear-minded, and unwavering in her dedication to both life and truth. The events of the previous night had tested her, reshaped her, and ultimately revealed her true power. Finally, Aaliyah stood once more near the exit of the recovery area, gazing out at the city beyond the hospital walls. The early morning light bathed her in warmth, illuminating the calm determination etched across her features. She inhaled deeply, centering herself, fully aware of the challenges she had faced and the clarity she had gained. The operating room had revealed life, the confrontation had revealed truth, and now, in the quiet aftermath, she embraced the profound empowerment of a woman who had faced betrayal, asserted agency, and emerged unbroken. Dr. Aaliyah Brooks straightened her posture and stepped forward with measured confidence and walked into the day ahead, fully in control of herself, her life, and the narrative she had